This is Eitan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger, and you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys. It's a podcast in English, by the way.
It's fine.
Okay.
But I might have to start the podcast like this. It's so great to be here in the Altneuland. It's fine. The people will think that
It's in high demand, that the accent, the language, with all the Netflix series.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your American accent.
I am American.
Really?
Yeah.
From where?
From Heart of Dixie.
What do you mean you're from the heart of Dixie?
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh.
I was born in Jersey.
What's
but
the language
of the Heart of Dixie?
No. For this show, what kind of language am I allowed to use?
Any
I mean,
language.
What are the 7 words?
The F word?
The F word, the...
Fuck, shit,
Okay,
bitch,
great.
ass.
Yes.
Can I
We
use
can say
the
all
C
of that.
word, cunt?
No.
No
No,
cunt?
No.
I mean, no C
So
word?
good.
No C word,
Such
no.
a good word. You didn't put my microphone in the right place.
Why?
Why can't we use the C word?
Okay, use the C word. Yeah, let's go. Ready? Go. We'll do a short intro, then
It's never easy to be different, to be the other. As Jews and Israelis, we know this just as well as anyone. To be the other can often be devastating, even lethal. That's why it's important to be tolerant, to recognize others, to acknowledge them, and sometimes even to fight on their behalf. One such group are those who identify as LGBTQ. Historically, religious persecution, social outcasting, violence, and other abuses have plagued the LGBTQ community. In the harsh reality of the Middle East, Israel is the only country where members of the LGBTQ community enjoy full rights. Well, except for marriage. Then again, Israel just held elections, and from the looks of it, the most solidly right-wing government in over a decade is on its way to power. Itamar Ben Gvir is even a likely candidate for Minister of Public Security, overseeing the police. Should this be a cause for concern? To talk about all this, we're excited to be joined today by Yuval David, an actor, an activist, who's an ardent advocate for the LGBTQ community. Inspired by his Jewish and Israeli-American roots, Yuval advocates for marginalized communities through organizations including the National LGBTQ Task Force, GLAAD, HRC, and many, many more. As an actor, Yuval's played major roles in short and feature films, television, theater, including ABC's What Would You Do, CBS's Madam Secretary, and much, much more. Yuval also produces, directs, and writes, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. We are thrilled to be joined by Yuval today to discuss the LGBT community and their future in Israel, around the world. Thank you so much for joining us.
Anti-Semitism
And a whole bunch of stuff.
Yiddish.
Wow. What an introduction. It's actually funny to hear somebody talk about what I do. I feel like I'm always doing, and being here with both of you in Israel means a lot to me because Israeliness, one of my favorite expressions is ma la'asot, la'asot. And to hear all of the things that I do coming from your mouth, sitting, just 2 feet away from you, is it kind of is exhausting. I've had an exhausting. Can I say the word? I've had an exhausting fucking day. Now, you mentioned that I'm an actor. I'm also a television host and a filmmaker and a director and an activist and an advocate. I'm a multi-hyphenate, but I don't know any other way to be. And both of you are multi-hyphenates as well. You're not just one thing. You're not only podcasts or...
Yeah.
Today I'm a dishwasher, laundry folder,
Did you do any diapers?
diaper changer.
I mean, honestly, and you're never not one of those
And
things.
Cheetos eater.
Oh, no. Sometimes I'm all of those things.
Wait. You eat Cheetos?
Well, I was in this house, so...
Oh.
He's the
this is a house of Cheetos.
the bad influence.
Yeah, no, I would not have even eaten those Cheetos unless I was really
It's
hungry.
if you knew Naor though, you'd realize how weird of a contradiction it is. Because on one hand, he like flies to Italy every other week and brings back cheeses and
per favore, lo
prosciutto.
tutto dello mio cuore.
Yeah.
Sì.
And then
Mangia il
there's nothing in the
pane.
middle though. He either eats that and he makes himself like cacio e pepe,
Perfettamente.
or he's eating Cheetos.
No, see, when I talk about the food, especially with the people who've been to Italy, it makes me think of one thing that Italy... Why is Italy so good with food? Why? Because I don't even give you time to answer because we're in Israel and who has time to pause? In Italy, the reason the food is so good is because during the Black Plague, during the Great Plague of the 1300s, 2/3 of the people in Italy died. They died, no more. And all of a sudden, there was all of this land and abundance and all of these things that people could achieve that they never could achieve before. And they said, wow. They didn't say wow because it was not yet a word, but soon they said, let's eat figs. Let's make the olive oil. Let's drink the wine. You drink the wine. You drink the wine. And that's what happened in Italy. Italy.
But 30% died in all Europe, and yet
no,
you don't
what
hear
30%?
in the plague.
2/3.
2/3. So more people died in Italy in the plague than in other
parts of Europe.
I didn't know that.
So it allowed them to focus on the food. And here you are coming back from Italy and eating at the Cheetos.
Stealing all their Parmesan.
Yeah, stealing all their Parmesan. You should, that's
open a
not-
black market.
For Cheetos?
No, it was it's dark times.
Well, we've been listening to the results of the elections here in
Yes,
Israel when we're sitting
horrendous,
here.
horrendous.
And I'm already feeling in mourning. Yeah, that's how you make me feel with that introduction. You make me feel exhausted, but also empowered to keep doing the work.
So why are you so worried about the election results?
Why am I
wait,
worried?
let's recap for those who I don't
Please.
know live on,
Yeah, it's true.
on the moon.
It's an opportunity.
BB won. Against all odds. Like it's
Why do you say against all odds?
because most people, I think,
In the polls leading
the
up to this,
polls,
it was 60-60 basically, right?
yeah, 60-60. And even those who said he would win never thought it would be by such a landslide. So
Well,
he won.
he listened to the polls. I mean, look at what Ben Gvir was doing. He knows how to motivate the masses. He knows how to go to the places and say, listen, I will get you a bus. I will pick you up. I will take you to the polls. You will vote this way because the future of our people, the Jewish people, it depends on you. He got people to vote who maybe never would have voted with all of their 8 to 12 to
Even
14
leftists.
children. Even leftists.
Leftist soldiers, first-time voters. That like Ben Gvir really changed the picture because he brought new audiences to the right, who and what people I think don't take into consideration is that these are the first elections since the May 2021 riots, because the May 2021 riots in Israel were held right after the last round of elections. So there was an election since, and I think this is it's the consequence of that.
I
The
absolutely
ripple
agree.
effect.
The ripple effect of, and I'm speaking to you as a left-leaning, progressive liberal. That's who I am. Those are the camps that I live in. Yet I very much connect to centrists. Very much connect to centrists. The problem is our center has moved further right because of the extreme left. And this is internationally. What has happened here in Israel today, yesterday, last night, is happening in America. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in Poland.
Italy.
In Italy, you're right. We're seeing a reaction to the far left extremes. I'm an inclusion activist. Truly. I focus on saying, let's everybody sit at the same table. You're included. You're included.
Ben Gvir supporters.
Including Ben Gvir and Smotrich and the ultra orthodox. I mean, Chabad in the United States, which is very different than Chabad in Israel, they're much more accepting and kind and fun in the US than they are here in Israel, invite me to be part of their LGBTQ councils and their LGBTQ panel discussions. Now, what's funny is many times I'm the only person on that panel discussion. And I'm not kidding. I show up for a panel discussion and it's me. And I say, how is this a panel discussion? But they bring me to speak because they recognize that they, with their goals, want to connect to the left-leaning progressive LGBTQ community. What is the problem? Why are people focusing more on the right and leaning more to the right? Because I think that the movements that I'm part of, the far extremes of our movements, might have gone too far, might have pushed too much according to the centrists and according to the right-wing people. And they're saying, why are you telling me? For example, in the LGBTQ movement, I see the LGBTQIA plus community as more of a movement than a community. In English, for example, we'll say, I'm Yuval David, my pronouns are he, him, his. And sometimes if I want to connect to the audience, I'll say, I'm Yuval David, my pronouns are he, him, his, and hey girl, hey. If somebody says to me, hey girl, I'm like, you're part of you're an och, like you're part of my community, you get me. And honestly, I connect to it.
But don't you feel like, I feel like putting it in the same box, the US politics and Israeli politics is a mistake because, first of all, there was a right-wing majority, I think, in the Jewish community in Israel for decades.
For decades.
In the Jewish community.
But they didn't get out and vote as much as they did.
They didn't get out and vote, and they were, and when they did, they were backstabbed by parties who pretended to be right, but then went with the left.
You mean like Bibi?
Like Ben.
Well, like Bennett, sure.
Bennett is the last one, and Bibi also.
Bibi manipulates people to vote for him.
Look, Bibi, the toughest criticism about him that he did go with the left several times. He did it, and today I think he learned from this mistake.
Right, he's gone more right. Now here's the continuation of that thought. When I mentioned the pronouns, in English we use that because not every verb is conjugated. Like in Hebrew, ani olech bimkom ani olechet, right? I'm walking. You don't know what my pronouns are. We've changed the concept of freedom of speech. The left-leaning movements say, this is how I am, this is how you must see me, and you must address me the way I see myself, instead of speaking about me the way you want to.
Reduction of the freedom of speech.
Exactly. I'm a free speech activist, an advocate. My response to hate speech is more speech. It's not canceling the hate speech. I do believe in counsel culture and consequence culture, but not cancel culture. Very different things.
Wait, again?
Cancel culture means I don't like what you just said or what you're doing. You are canceled. You are done. You are no more. You will never succeed. You're finished. Counsel culture is, hey, you said something that I don't appreciate, that I don't like, that I think is wrong. Let me counsel you. Let me give you advice. Let's have a conversation, and let me direct you in the right direction. Consequence culture. You said something I don't like. You said something I don't appreciate. You said something against me. There are consequences. You spoke. Now I'm going to speak. You said this publicly. Now I'm going to say this about you. There are consequences. For example, Kanye West. There are consequences to what ye, however you choose to fucking pronounce that douchebag's name. There are consequences. Not cancellation. I can't cancel him. He's alive. I'm not going to murder him, slaughter him. He lives. He should live. He should live and be healthy and happy. And he should be peaceful. He's not peaceful. He's not healthy. And he's not happy. That's why he's a Jew-hating activist. Counsel culture, consequence culture. There are consequences to what you say, and I will try to counsel you to get you in the right direction. I cannot cancel you. Now, what has these movements, the left-leaning movements, which I am part of, and this is my criticism of my own movements, is so many of us have said, you cannot say this, you have to say this. That is no longer freedom of speech.
It's violence.
I don't think it's violence. Violence is violence. Speech isn't violence. You think speech is violence.
If you want to enforce it, then it may become, but if it's not enforced, then it's not violence.
And that's the problem. And that's why people are moving to the right. They're saying, don't tell me what I need to do, what I have to do. You want to have a pride march? You want to be feminist? You want to be a homosexualist? You want to believe in Black Lives Matters and stop Asian hate?
People do react violently. I'm sorry to you not respecting the pronouns. I mean,
so if they act violently, it's violent. But if they're simple,
it's a violent ideology.
What is a violent ideology?
Demand that you use pronouns
pronoun
is not
ideology.
To demand that you speak some way.
To demand,
is violent.
and then if you don't, like, attack you,
so that's violence.
Cancel. Yeah,
I think
I'm saying it's.
I mean, I love semantics. I do love semantics. I love the play of words, and I think violence is violence. Violence is physical violence. Is violence to me. I'll think about it, and I'll get back to you in the next podcast. When I force you to do something, is that a freedom?
No, it depends how you force. I mean, again,
Sure.
if someone demands from me to call them whatever they want me to call, whatever they want for me to call them, that's not violence.
If I can't if I can't participate a course in the university because I refuse to acknowledge a pronoun, that's to me like if it's
sure.
violence.
I think that and that's something. Speaking of universities, that's something we're seeing across the United States. Just yesterday, Vermont went a step beyond Berkeley. The Vermont University declared that they have Jewish-free zones. Berkeley declared that they have Zionist-free zones. Now, Zionist is being redefined. What is Zionism? Zionism is a word, it's an ism, it's a movement that's about the self-actualization of the Jewish people with a connection to their homeland. That's what Zionism is. Zionism is a socio-political movement about the self-actualization of the Jewish people. Now, people have redefined it, and there's a double standard where it's okay to say people who believe in the self-actualization of the Jewish people are not allowed in these spaces. But if I would dare say LGBTQ people, this is a homosexual-free zone, this is a lesbian-free zone, a bisexual, a trans-free zone, a black-free zone, a Palestinian-free zone, a Muslim-free zone, I would be demolished. But if I say this is a Jewish-free zone, or a Zionist-free zone, or an Israel-free zone, it's accepted in universities in the United States.
What does it mean in practice?
What does it mean in practice? That there are zones that don't allow pro-Israel Zionists?
How do they enforce it?
They say
Like
we're
it's a
having...
physical zone in the university?
Totally.
Like
yes.
a room?
Yes. It's a room, it's a
What?
space. Exactly. It's a room, it's a space, but it's also lecture halls, and it's also special events. If they have a special event, they will say, we don't allow any Israeli speakers, any Zionist speakers. Now, what is a Zionist speaker? If a Jew believes in the rights of Jewish people, that's a Zionist. If a Jew believes in their own self-determination, that's a Zionist. So it's a very gray area that's happening in universities across the United States, also in Canada.
So is it violence then? To you?
I mean,
borderline violence.
I mean, look, again, I think violence is physical. Violence is how I see it. Is it violent speech? Is it hate speech? I'll say it's hate speech. I don't know if I'll say it's violence. Nonetheless, no matter what we choose to call it, it's wrong. And that's the era in which we live. So here I am in Israel promoting this movie that's screening tomorrow in the TLV festival and named Wonderfully Made LGBTQ plus R, where I define the R as religion. In the alphabet soup of the LGBTQ plus community, I added religion. What happens at the intersection of LGBTQ and religious identity? That's what this...
It's a documentary.
A documentary film. It's a 95-minute film I've worked on for 4 years during the pandemic.
Wow.
And it's the first part of a docu-series. Because when we look at the vast majority of anti-LGBTQ laws, legislation, and belief, it's on the basis of what? It's on the basis of religion. So what happens to LGBTQ people who are religious, who are within religious communities? And as I said, I'm an inclusion activist. I am radically inclusive. I want even the people who are against me to sit with me. That's what this film is about. It says, all right, hey girl, hey religious communities, guess what? We're already part of your communities. We're there. The queers have been part of your religious communities for a long time. But, or rather, let me say, and, to the LGBTQ community, guess what? There are religious people who exist within the LGBTQ community. So since the LGBTQ community is seeking tolerance and acceptance, we also must accept those who are against us. That is what being radically inclusive is about. And right now in Israel, with the results of the election, our leaders are not radically inclusive in this country. They're separatist, they're partisan, they're dividing the country of Israel that affects the entire international Jewish community. And those people who voted the way that they vote, in my educated opinion, should be embarrassed because it is to the detriment of the Jewish people internationally. Less than half of the Jewish people in the world, live in Israel. What the fuck are you people doing in this country who don't care about the other Jewish people? Are the people who aren't ultra-Orthodox Haredi and whatever type of Jew, are we not Jews? Am I not a Jew? Am I not a person? Do I not deserve any rights? Are you not listening and reading the texts of the Torah and the Mishnah and the Talmud and all of the texts that we have said about how we must live in this world? It is un-Jewish. It is unjust to cancel, because they are canceling people who are not like them.
Are they?
Absolutely. They consider
They've
people...
been in power
They've been in power before, but you know what? The Maccabees fought the Romans, but they still lost. We still were driven out of this land. The majority of our people were killed. Do the ultra-Orthodox... Are they the only ones who who guarantee the survival of our people? They think so. I don't think so.
No.
So I think now's a good time to come out of the closet. I don't know if you knew, but we are on the right side of the aisle.
Totally fine.
So I think this is a good opportunity to have a discussion. Why do you feel it cancels the Jewish population of the United States?
It is not canceling the population, the Jewish population of the United States. It is canceling people who don't necessarily agree with their ways. To be Jewish is to have multiple opinions. The joke of the Jews forever has been 3 Jews, 5 opinions. I'm supposed to say, oh, well, Rabbi this said so-and-so, but Rabbi this said this, and Rabbi this said about this, about the Rabbi who said this, and I'm supposed to have an opinion. Jews do not cancel opinions. We write down the other opinions, and we'll say, oh, well, Rabbi Hillel said this, but Rabbi Shammai said this. We all agree with Rabbi Hillel, but we're keeping what Rabbi Shammai said because it's important for the future to know what Rabbi Shammai said. Right now, we're in an era, or maybe not the two of you, because neither one of you have shtrei malach, and neither one of you is wearing a kippah of any sort, and neither one of you is wearing a black hat, and I don't see tzitzit. Okay? Sure.
Neither one of us is an observant religious.
Fine. So you're on the right side of... I'm just going to paint you into the centrists. You're on the right side of center? Are you far right of center?
I'm not far right. I wouldn't define myself as far right
earlier,
but I voted Smotrich.
All right.
No, can we reveal?
Fine. So, look, being Israeli...
I'm really happy, by the way, that
love
we're
it.
having this opportunity, because I do agree with the fact that we should all be able to sit around a
and
table
be friends.
and have a discussion.
Totally.
And that's a big part of the reason we have this podcast.
I did just take my jacket off. As we're saying. For our listeners, I did just take my jacket off as we're listening to this, because game on, bitches. Game on.
Here's what's bothering me in your passionate monologue.
I do want to clarify, though, that I believe in everything we said in the intro, and I believe in gay people's right to live happily with their partners, and
great,
and everything is fine. And
so why did you vote Smotrich?
My brother-in-law is gay, and I love him to death.
But I feel there's a but.
No, there's no. I'm just.
So how did you vote Smotrich, who speaks out against your brother-in-law? And wait, your brother-in-law is gay. Does that mean your brother is gay?
Yeah, and my sister also.
And your
my
sister-
sister-in-law.
The siblings of his wife.
The siblings of my wife, or
And the sibling of-
two siblings, my sister-in-law lives happily with her partner. They're not too happy about the fact that I voted Smotrich, but we're extremely close. We always, have Shabbat together. We visit each other all the time. They
So
live
you're
happily
again.
in Rosh Hashanah with their
I
child.
still see you as close to center. That means you're right of center. You're not right. You're not
Depends
far
on the
right.
issues. If
Fine.
it's gay right, it's one thing. If it's what do we do with
my
Palestinians,
main,
is
exactly,
another thing.
and I think that's what you're missing about a lot of the people that voted right or even far right of center. In the end, in Israel, you have to. I'm not going to find a single list in the States. Is even worse because you're voting for one guy. But I'm not going to find a list that puts my priorities
Everything.
exactly in the
Of
way
course
that
not.
I ordered them.
Well, that's because the mess of the parliamentary system and the amount of parties
but
here.
there's no system that really solves that.
Of course not.
So in the end, I have to ask myself, what's the most important things to
Issue.
me? And to me, personally, I think that the situation of LGBTQ rights in Israel is much better than our national security or
Sure,
I
the
am on
national
the right
security.
side.
The national security is a huge issue, and I'm speaking to you as a survivor of multiple terrorist incidents, most of which have been in Israel. I mean, in May, I was having dinner with friends in Dizengoff, and two restaurants
You
next
were
to
on
us,
Dizengoff.
people were shot and killed.
Wow.
And because
this May, guys.
yeah, this recent May, just
5 months ago.
yeah, just recently. And because I do adventure sports and because I've been a first responder in tragic situations and I've learned, okay, I don't know what it says about me or my fate or who knows what, but let me be as educated and prepared as possible for life because life happens to me, around me, whatever. So I had to, around Israelis who served in the military, who were freaking out, to control the situation, get everybody to duck, to cover, to run, to leave, and that's kind of the position I get into. So I understand what you're talking about from a national security, even though I don't live it every day. I live in the comfort of America.
But
Okay.
you've lived here.
But I've lived here. So, yeah, security is a huge issue, and so many people around the world don't understand what it means. I was the host of this beautiful documentary, which was co-produced by Kakal, by Keren Kayemet LeIsrael, the Jewish National Fund. And it was all about water reuse and water recycling. And we were filming in the border towns, in the peripheria, in the periphery towns next to Gaza. These farms that did amazing things in a place that never anybody in the past would have imagined that they could grow these things. We finished filming, we finished editing, beautiful movie, beautiful music, beautiful, every split second was done. And then balloons from Gaza came and burned everything down. Then people from Gaza, instead of saying, Wallah Habibi, Wallah Sadiqi, look at what these Jews are doing in Israel. Look at what this, we should do this too. No, let us burn it down. Fuck them, let us burn it down. And that's what Hamas does. So when people in the United States say free Palestine, I say, oh yeah, but you forgot the rest of it. They're like, what do you mean? I said, I totally support free Palestine from Hamas. They said, no, free Palestine. I said, no, free Palestine from Hamas. How is Palestine ever going to self-actualize themselves? When are they going to have a Zionist movement for themselves if they have a people who are only focusing on destroying another people? If you want to self-actualize yourself, you need to self-actualize yourself, not at the detriment of another, but just for the positivity of yourself. So I understand how people move to the right. I understand how centrists focus on the right. I get it. It's not going to reduce my being on the left.
What bothered me in your original monologue,
Spiel. Come on, we spoke in Yiddish. You can say spiel.
in the spiel, is that you blame the right for being divisive and inclusive in the right-wing parties, Bibi, the Haredis. But the reality is that the one who's boycotting, the side that's boycotting the other side, is the center left. Like Bibi never said.
I think it's the far left.
Wait.
Okay.
Bibi never said I will never sit with Lapid. Okay, I will never sit with I don't know, Labour Party, whatever. You know, the boycott came, and the situation we're at, in the end of the day, the whole political mayhem we had in the last 4 years was because 1 million people support the Likud Netanyahu, and Lapid voters, Labour voters, Meretz voters, Lieberman voters, and their representatives boycott Bibi for various, a wide array of reasons, and would not accept the choice of so many people. The same goes with the Haredis. Like Lieberman boycotted the Haredis. Lapid said to Ari Deri, אני אשקם אותך, I'll rehab you.
Right.
The boycott and the hatred speech comes from the left. And if they were more pragmatic, we would have a unity government, and then maybe Bibi wouldn't have to go with Smotrich.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
One of the problems in this era in which we live, and it's an international problem, is the microphone. And by the way, the microphones of today's podcast are provided by Shure. Shure microphones are some of the best microphones in the industry. Thank you so much for Shure.
40 years of quality.
If only we got money from them for that.
If only Shure would provide
You can be sure.
You can be sure that the sound of Shure microphones is always great.
Shure isn't going to...
And that's SHURE, Shure. They might listen to this. One of the problems in this era in which we live, when we're focusing on civil rights and social justice movements, and when more people are involved in politics, whether they're educated and informed or not, or whether they pay attention to one source or multiple news sources, is we are giving the microphones to the far extremes, the far extreme right and the far extreme left. And I don't even know if it's a right and left thing, because I think we're a circle, and that's another problem with our society. It's not a one line. We're not a linear line. We're focusing too much on the extremes instead of the centrists who want to live, who want to have children, who want to have good access to education and health care, and focus on the next generation and be safe. Those really are the centrists, not the ones who want to destroy. But we're passing these microphones to the extremists who say, burn this bitch down, burn it down, let's start from scratch. You're never going to burn down this world and the society. The world might burn us down on her own accord, because the way, the Mother Nature, the way she works as the God of this world, she has much more power than we have. If she wants to burn it down, she'll burn it down. We're not going to burn it down. And we're focusing way too much on the extremes instead of the centrists. And the problem in our society is that the centrists are only now recognizing that they need to speak up and take action.
But what does it have to do with what I said, though?
What does it have to do with the extremes? What does it have to do with the...
But why? Why do Lapid boycott Likud?
Why? That goes back to my concept of cancel culture is wrong, consequence culture and council culture is right. I cannot boycott you. I cannot say you are done. I can say, good for you. I believe in your right to speak and do what you want to do, because I believe in freedom of speech and I believe in freedom of action, as long as you're not murdering and slaughtering and doing things to the detriment of somebody else's life. But if you're speaking in a democratic process, which I believe in, then I should be able to talk to you. And that's one of the problems of the left that has driven more people to the right, because we will say, I am boycotting you. You are wrong. You are done. You are not going to be anymore. I will make sure that you are never going to be. Who has the right to say that? We don't have the right to say that. I have the right to argue with you. I have the right to write articles about you. I have the right to do everything in my power in a public forum if you are in a public forum. But I do not support the right to cancel somebody. And that is what is happening within my own left-leaning progressive movements.
So how do you think that can change?
I think it can change when those who are seeking the most amount of tolerance and inclusion stop being intolerant and stop not including. Those who seek the most amount of tolerance end up becoming the most intolerant. Where do you think Orthodox Judaism came from? They wanted people to tolerate them until they realized that, we need to focus on ourselves. Let's separate ourselves and tolerate each other because nobody else is going to tolerate us. I don't tolerate you. I don't tolerate you. We're going to be like us. That's where that came from. The Haredi movement came from Harada, came from fear. I fear you. It's not Haredi koach, it's Harada. It's fear. That's what the word means. I fear you, so I'm going to separate myself. Not include you. You are other. You're other. You're the goy. You're different.
I'm gonna seclude myself in the ghetto.
Right? We ghettoized, our people ghettoized ourselves before other people ghettoized us. Now, was it a survival mechanism? Yes. Was it a good choice? Yes. Was it a bad choice? Yes. It's all of those things because life sucks. Life is complicated. And that's what we're dealing with today in this insane day, the day after the elections.
But the thing is, I don't find...
Sorry, my grandparents just landed abroad and I gotta make sure everything is okay.
Wo bist du deine Tatermame?
Bucharest.
In Bucharest.
Yeah.
Sehr gut.
Romanians.
Oh, in Romanians.
They're going back to the homeland.
Spazieren in Bucharest, in Romania. Essen und der Essen in Romania ist mit der Sache...
Spitzen? What is the first word you said?
Was?
Spatzen?
Oh,
You said
weiß
Spatzen?
mehr, nicht reden
I'm
Jiddisch.
3/4 Moroccan, man. You can't expect me to...
Wallah, but you have to at least bring in your Moroccan.
No, but that's more like... It's more like Shimdu, Ale...
Wallah, I know.
Smallah.
Bismillah.
Yeah. But okay, what I guess differ on is the definition of center, left, and right. I think that and that's a lot of people refer to the center and the left and the right, and I don't see the center as the center, and I don't see the right as the right, and the left as the left. Because
what do you see? That's so confusing.
I know, but I think that we're focused too much on the superficial things that define us. But really, when it comes down to it, Shas and Smotrich are less far extreme. Like I definitely don't connect with their way of life. I don't relate to their way of life, and I don't want to. I probably live a lifestyle that's closer to yours than it is to Aryeh Deri or Smotrich or Ben Gvir or any of their followers.
By the way, while he said that, he moved his chair closer to me. But slow down, I'm married, okay? So
well, I am too. But
you never know. It's an evening when we're drinking wine.
But my lifestyle is probably closer to yours than it is to theirs.
Sure.
Now, but I don't think that that's what defines center, right, and left. I think what defines us is like our core values. And I think that my core value, like the way that I see things around security, around economics, around freedom of choice and agency, are probably closer to those people than they are to you or to people on the left.
To the Haredis, no.
Not probably to the... Well, actually to the Haredim to a certain degree. To a certain degree, probably.
Unless you're living... you're appearing here... and again, thank you to Shure Microphones for providing the equipment for us to record our sound. But what Shure does not provide is the visual of what we're seeing. You don't look Haredi. You're talking about, excuse me, connecting to them more, maybe, than me and what you're assuming I am and how I position myself. I'm probably much more centrist than I am left in terms of my beliefs and my desires. I believe and desire for myself to be as left as I want and maybe even as right as I want. And that's a very centrist belief, as long as I don't hurt or harm somebody else. I think that the Haredim, the far right, just like the far left, want people to live like them. And if you don't live like them, then you're wrong. That's the problem.
But I get that sense from a lot of the people on the left.
Exactly, because it's the same thing for the people on the right. You don't believe this? You're wrong. And most people in this world today cannot have a conversation like we're having, cannot say, oh, hey, by the way, just to FYI, both of us are more on the right. Most people will say like, yeah, thank you, thanks for the wine, I'm out.
But at the same time, there is going to be in the coalition the Minister of Justice,
Or Foreign Affairs.
Or Foreign Affairs will be a gay man who sits on the Likud list? Do you see that more as just like their pet gay guy?
You know what? But as a supporter,
was elected in primaries, by the way.
Right. Look, in the last parliamentary elections, Israel has elected more LGBTQ people than a percentage basis alone than any other government. That's really significant.
Yeah.
The Israeli parliament, on percentage alone, holds more LGBTQ members than most countries in the world. Mm-hmm. That is a success.
Most of them are probably on the left, to be fair.
Whatever.
Right.
For me, as an LGBTQ activist, the fact that they're there, if these LGBTQ people are right or left, the fact that they're there, the fact that there are women there, the fact that there are LGBTQ people there, the fact that there are Mizrahi people there and Ethiopian people there and Arabs there, that is democracy. Yes. And that is something to focus on, which tragically, and this is the ramifications on the international Jewish community, it is not being promoted enough. The Israeli PR machine is an example of a failed PR machine where you don't promote the things that are actually impressive that are happening here. Yes, wonderful. Wow, Microsoft has offices here, Google, Waze, it's the startup nation, all of these things. Good for you. So many people are educated. Wawa, weewa, amazing. But talk about the democracy, talk about the complexity of the nation that is struggling to do right even when it does wrong. That is something that needs to be promoted. Look at the amount of women in this country who are highly educated, who have a bachelorate or who have a master's, compared to the percentages of women in other countries. Look at the LGBTQ people. Granted, they're mostly in Tel Aviv and in the Periferia, which the Aguda, which is, for your listeners who don't know what the Aguda is the Israeli National LGBTQ Advocacy Organization, the umbrella organization for just about all other LGBTQ organizations in Israel. The Aguda, yes, focused on Tel Aviv, has offices in Jerusalem, has offices in centers and community centers across the country. The fact that it's here and that it's funded by the government. In the United States, most organizations, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are funded by donations, by private donations. Here, these NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, demand that the government pays for their ability to function. That means that the Israeli taxpayers, if they're Jewish, if they're Muslim, if they're secular, if they're Christian, if they're Baha'i, if they're Druze, whatever, that tax money goes to pay for the organizations. That's an example of democracy doing something right, with all of its failures, with all of its fucked upness. What is wrong with you people here in Israel that you're not sharing these stories enough with the world? Because what are we hearing? What am I affected by as an American Jew? Oh, look at the white supremacist apartheid state. I was on a podcast 2 days ago. These LGBTQ people are having a podcast, and they're wonderful and amazing, and they're celebrities, truly celebrities in their own right, with all due merit. And they said, oh, by the way, we're also going to do a whole story about the occupation. And I thought to myself, do you even know what you're talking about? You're sitting here in Tel Aviv, and what do you know about the religion? Like, do your research. And I was actually offended by it. I said, great, do a story about the occupation, but please take your LGBTQ podcast to Gaza. Please, take it. Let's have a pride parade in Gaza. Come on. Let's march with our flags in Gaza and in the Shtachim. I would love to help raise money for you. I'm not going to join you there because I have a lot to do in my life.
Just kiss them goodbye in the border.
Wallah,
send them to her.
Let us go. For example, today, Queers for Palestine. It's a great organization is coming for me. They wrote to me on about 20 of my YouTube videos, just you wait, you faggot Jew, the trains are coming for you.
Queers of Palestine?
Mm-hmm. Queers for Palestine. Queers of Palestine. Look,
Okay.
I work
I
with...
was so confused. I was like, the
I'm
queers
very
of
confused as well.
Palestine
No,
are
so
coming after you.
Queers for Palestine. It's a queer organization, an LGBTQ organization that is pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, truly an anti-Jewish, a Jew-hating
These
organization.
are the chickens for KFC
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Chickens for KFC. Exactly. So I actually work with the National LGBTQ Task Force in the United States, the Aguda here, IGI, which is Israeli Gay Youth, with Iraqqueer, the Iraqi queer organization, 3/4 of which have been slaughtered in Iraq. I work with the Rainbow Railroad, which is an underground railroad that helps rescue LGBTQ people out of dangerous and often and usually life-threatening situations.
What about Iran?
We're getting there. 98% of the LGBTQ people who are rescuing from dangerous and life-threatening situations happen to come from countries that follow Sharia law. I also work with Dignity LGBTQI, also aiming to give grant money to LGBTQ people trying to flee life-threatening situations, and with Freedom House, which started as a women's rights group, which also does a lot of work to support women internationally, including women, Palestinian women, who suffer a huge percentage of domestic violence, sex abuse, even within marriage and outside of marriage, but it's not spoken about and it's unprotected. I work with these organizations. So when Queers for Palestine comes for me, which they do on a regular basis, trying to cancel me, and trying to say that I have no right to be an LGBTQ activist because I am Zionist, and dare I quote, because I am obviously Zionist and openly Jewish. That is a quote. I've been accused multiple times of being obviously Zionist and openly Jewish. What the fuck is openly Jewish? I've heard
They got
openly...
you out of the closet.
Right, I've heard openly gay, right? I've heard that before. You've heard that in America and in the English
You are wearing
vernacular.
a Star of David.
I'm wearing, yes, so
yeah.
I'm
You're
openly...
openly Jewish.
Who says you're openly Muslim? Who says you're openly Christian? Who says you're openly Mizrahi or Ashkenazi? That's what we're dealing with. And those factions within the left are what are driving the centrists further right, because people are saying, what the hell is happening? They're going too far.
So let me challenge you a little bit.
Please.
I feel like we've made life too easy for you here.
Not yet.
Knowing what you know about the state of LGBTQ in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, the Palestinian Authority, the hell, like those communities are really in the closet. They're non-existent on paper. Like they live underground, they flee. Some flee here. We can't accept all of them, frankly.
No, and the ones we accept can still be kidnapped and beheaded in Hebron.
Yeah, it
which
just
is
happened.
somebody who I actually interfaced with for 6 months.
So so tell us the story maybe in 1 second. But my point is, knowing all that, you should be the first to admit that there is zero reasons those people should have a state, because why do we need another gay hating, radical, violent, anti-Semitic savage of a state in the Middle East? We have enough of those, no?
I agree. I believe in democracy. I believe in the power of the people to rise up and speak however they wish to speak, and for the leaders to change based on what the constituency says. I believe in democracy. Meaning, I support Israel, and I support the United States, and I support other democratic countries around the world, and I do not support non-democratic countries. I do not support Afghanistan, I do not support Lebanon, I do not support Syria, I do not support Iran, I do not support Iraq. I can go on and on and on and on through the list of non-democratic countries in the African continent and the Asian continent. By the way, both of you are Asian here in Israel. A lot of people forget that Israel is part of Asia.
Yes.
Right? So
is there quotas for me in Harvard as an Asian?
Yes.
Okay.
You absolutely are Asian.
Apply?
You're in
Totally.
Harvard. That's it.
You're in Harvard. You're done. Bye. It's been really
I'm Jewish, so
it's been
maybe,
really
so I can't go to the
because
Jew
there's a
free
double
zone.
there's a
maybe.
double standard. You might not, but you can go to the Asian free zone
Okay.
or the Asian zone rather.
Okay.
We're dealing with a huge problem in our society.
What do we do with those cultures that refuse to play the game of democracy and freedom.
We educate, we welcome them to our tables, we try to introduce ourselves to say, hi, my name is Yuval David. I'm an actor, host, filmmaker. I'm an American Israeli Zionist who pursues art for social change. I love men. I love women. I love creating art. I want to make sure the world will become a better place.
Boo,
blah, blah, blah.
The guy
Right.
pulled out his AK-47. like,
Sure, but fine. So I hear you. So I try to say that. And I said, this is who I am. Who are you? Who are you? What? Tell me, what are you about? You
sure,
are
who
what?
you?
No, tell me, who are you? What are you about? I
Me?
just told you a bunch of things about me. Your turn.
As Eitan Weinstein or as the
Sure,
leader
Eitan
of
Weinstein.
a non-democratic...
No, please. I just told you who I am as Yuval.
I'm
David.
Eitan Weinstein. I'm the father of Daniela Weinstein, the newly made father of Daniela Weinstein,
Mazal
husband
tov.
to Sharon Shlomi Weinstein, son to, I feel like I'm a Game
No,
of
do
Thrones
it,
character.
please.
Son of Gilbert Weinstein and Shlomit Weinstein. I was born and raised in the States, and what am I? Who am I? I don't know. That's a good question.
Proud Jew.
A proud Jew, loving father, and a Zionist.
Good. What about you?
Oh man.
Wow, that was the big Israeli. Israeli.
Yeah.
This
always
is
a
who
tough
I
one.
am.
It's tough. It's a tough
No,
one.
just say it. What are your? This is the. What
I
are your
can't
pronouns?
compete. I don't have a wife and kids, so it's
So
I'm,
that you know
uh,
of. That you know.
that I
of.
know of. Yeah. I'll just pass.
No, you cannot pass. Tell us.
That is who you are.
That, no, that's
I'll
not who
need
you
another
are.
sip of the wine.
No, tell us. Who are you?
I'm a filmmaker,
Good.
content creator, son of Chazin Sharona. I steal this from you.
Mhm.
Proud son. A Jew, an Israeli, and a person.
And the reason it's important for us to say these things is we cannot segment ourselves. We cannot intersect ourselves. We cannot cut ourselves apart. My right arm means nothing without my left arm. If I didn't have a left arm, I would only have an arm, not a right arm, right? I'm always Yuval David, the son of Ziva and Victor and Aryeh. Yes, I have two fathers, a stepfather who was my dad and a biological father who's my biological father. I'm always a Zionist. I'm always a Jew. I'm always gay. I'm always queer. I'm always bi. I'm always an artist. I'm always a host. I'm always an actor. I always live where I live. I always like the vegetables I like, no matter what I do.
Broccoli?
Yes, very much so, in many different ways. That is something that we need to focus on. I am all of me all the time. And because I accept all of these things, that means I can connect with you about many things, even if we don't agree politically. But I can agree with you about other things. And if people recognize that we, each of us is all of me all the time, we can have those conversations. We can connect and see each other for who we are as opposed to our differences. And
But don't you believe there's a limit to tolerance? Like, at some point, does tolerance end, or should we be tolerant to everybody all the time?
I think as long as we're tolerating people who are peaceful and support other people's rights to exist and take care of the planet, it's asking a lot. I don't tolerate people throwing garbage out of their windows. I mean, gosh, Tel Aviv, you go to the rooftops and you see all these other rooftops of buildings, especially the older buildings, that have garbage on them of total schmucks who just throw their garbage out the window and don't care. I don't tolerate those people because they don't tolerate the planet. They don't care about the planet, right?
But that's like a low threshold. I mean, take that.
Sure.
Like we're talking about tolerance and how we should all sit around a table and speak to each other.
As long as we take care of each other.
You didn't throw a Coke out the window.
Sure.
So the second I throw a Coke out the window,
you're
you can't.
horrible. You're horrible. Because that means you're not taking care of the planet. You're a father. Don't you want your daughter to live a wonderful, healthy life?
I hate people who litter, but I've littered.
Okay, and you felt bad about it. And you're like, I feel really lazy right now. I'm not right, but hopefully you thought
I
about
haven't
it.
littered.
You've
Good
never
for you.
littered?
Yes.
Never?
But he still eats
'cause
Cheetos.
you don't
But he
smoke.
eats Cheetos. Ugh, you smoke? You smoke what?
Well, I don't smoke that much
seldomly.
anymore. But I used to smoke like
Right, but now you
Two
have a
packs a
daughter,
day.
and now you care.
No,
more.
but now I also smoke. So like if I'm in the street occasionally, I
and
don't
you'll
know. I haven't
throw the
done it-
cigarette.
or I
Ugh,
haven't done it in a
that's
long time.
such a disgusting part of
but yeah.
smoking culture.
But yeah.
You think that you can throw litter everywhere else.
It's pretty awful. But that means I
but
don't.
you're a
You
horrible
don't
person,
exactly.
Nathan.
I don't have the
right,
right.
but you're
to
not
be-
always. But you're not
How do you
always.
live
I
with
agree.
yourself?
It's a shitty thing to do.
It's a shitty
but-
thing to do. Granted, humans are shitty people. We are horrible people. We
Yeah.
are the roaches of this planet. Look at how much we've populated this world to the detriment of the oceans, of the land, of the forests, and of the skies. Right? We are roaches.
That's
on
what
this
Mother
planet.
Nature wanted.
Is it?
Yes.
Sure.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Well, she's speaking up now. I mean, gosh,
Is
how many
she?
more injections do we need, from corona to monkeypox to the flu to people are talking about all of these things that are happening. Mother Nature she's saying, all right, you've
We
had your
overcame
playtime.
those.
So far, the world is getting hotter. She's going to burn us up. We're not going to.
We have
Yeah, but
AC.
if the Black Plague created Italian food, I'm willing.
You're willing.
To take my
Who knows what kind of
chances.
greatness is going to
Yeah,
happen?
I'm
Once 2/3 of the human population is
Yeah.
going to disappear. Yeah, no, something is happening in our world right now, and it's clear for environmentalists, and it's clear for spiritualists, and it's clear for politicians and those who study social and political movements. Something massive is happening, and we have choices.
You
We
don't
can-
think we live in the best period in human history?
Well, what is the best? How do I know what the best is? According to IMDb, I'm only 35 years old, and I've only lived 35 years. How do I know what the best is? I don't
In
know.
Human history.
I don't know.
Relatively
Like
to
until this point, like maybe in
I
10
don't
years,
know.
everything
What?
will
Because
hit
we
the-
have medicine, and because I have here
Yes.
my new iPhone 14,
Yes.
and thank you to the makers of Apple.
Thank you
and
to
iPhone
little
14
Chinese children for being
Little-
slaves
Yeah.
and
for
making
for
this
making the
iPhone.
iPhone 14.
And don't forget the African kids who mine the cobalt. How does it called? The cobalt field, the cobalt mine.
co-
What is it? No,
No,
cobalt.
mines. Yeah,
Right.
little African kids and little Chinese kids.
It's a horrible thing, and most people don't
Made your
recognize it.
iPhone.
Right, and people who buy things on Amazon who think like, oh my God, I just got all this fast fashion. The fast fashion is made by people who are
Can't go to the
enslaved.
toilet, but it does help the diaper
Right.
industry.
It helps the diaper industry. And the amount of garbage that we've created during this pandemic with
The
The other-
masks.
the other
The
day.
masks.
The other day,
Wow.
yeah, the other day I was I was filming in Los Angeles, and I was put up in this really nice apartment with a gorgeous kitchen. I love to cook, and I went to the grocery store, and I parked at the grocery store, and I saw this woman who got out of her car, and she had a mask on and rubber medical gloves. She got out of her car, and she took her gloves off and her mask off, and she threw them in the garbage can that was next to where she parked. She walked back to her car. She put on a new pair of gloves and a new mask and walked in. And I thought, I wonder
You're a
where.
psychopath.
And I was like, I wonder where she was before that. Before she was in her car. That's weird.
Maybe she's a proctologist.
Who knows?
Proctologist.
But I already
Proctologist.
told you I'm gay, and it's a wonderful place to be. So then I went and did my shopping, and I come back from my shopping, going to my car, and what a coincidence, she's going back to her car. She put the groceries in her car, walked back to the garbage can,
Oh my
took
God.
off the gloves, took off the mask, threw them in the garbage can, went back to her car, stood outside the car, sprayed her hands with obviously a disinfectant, put gloves on, put a mask on, got into her car and drove away. And I thought, how many insane people are like this, creating a huge amount of garbage? The amount of garbage that we are creating in this society is an absolute embarrassment, and I don't want to tolerate those people. Did I walk up to her and knock on her door and say, hello, let me counsel culture you, or let me consequence culture you? The consequences are going to happen to all of us. If people are uneducated, this is my very long answer to your question 5 hours ago, is we need to educate. If we can educate
It's a
people,
very condescending
that's how we can.
approach.
Education is condescending,
Yes.
even though he did say condescend, which is
not
No, it's
condescending.
no, condensation is a very different thing than condescending. But it's fine. Your
evaporating.
English is much better than my Hebrew is, and
Thank you.
In chapeau to you. That was French, by the way. Chapeau.
yes,
means
hat.
means hat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chapeau.
Chapeau.
Take off the hat.
Oh, look! Did you
I
see
thought it was
his
just
miming?
like a
Chapeau,
lazy
Oh,
person
petit
saying
français.
shampoo.
No, chapeau. It means that.
You
It
take
means
off your top
I
hat.
take
in
off my hat to you.
gratitude.
Wow,
It's not
look
just
at
a
you.
hat, it's the top hat.
It's the top hat, which is very big and classy. No, it is chapeau. That's why it's part of. There's go to Netanya and you'll hear people say chapeau.
But
all
yeah,
the time.
the point is like the Republicans had this approach, right? Let's invade Iraq. Let's educate those Arabs about democracy.
Did we really want to? Did we? And I'm speaking as an American. Did we really want to educate those Arabs about democracy?
Didn't you want to educate America want to
Sure.
educate the Soviet
I don't think we went in there for education.
States?
I don't think we went in there for education. I think we went in there. The reason we went into Iraq is the same reason why so many other massive superpowers in the world go into other countries. It's about what can we do to increase our own economic strength. What is the strength that we can have to create big business and to support big business? I do a lot of lobbying work. I do a lot of advocacy work. I'm not as strong as the big industry advocates and lobbyists. No way. I have to fight my way into those rooms because I'm not entering making any of those people money. I'm entering making people acknowledge the need for people's rights. It's not increasing the money in anybody's pockets.
I'm thinking about maybe the biggest educational project of the 20th century, which is we took in as citizens Arabs, Palestinians, right? And we have been trying for decades to educate them into our values
Culture,
of
right.
democracy and freedom.
Now,
and
hopefully the Abraham Accords will help get us there slowly but surely.
you see in these elections, in every elections, which is to me amazing, right? The fact that, like, I'm saying to myself, to those Israeli Palestinian Arabs, whatever you want to call them, want to call themselves. You are so lucky to be one of the only Arabs in the entire region who can vote in a democracy, and 60% of them don't bother to do that.
Right, because we're telling them how they need to appreciate their lives instead of empowering them or having them tell us how they live. Who am I to go and say, you are so lucky that I gave you this right. I'm so great. I am a Jew Israeli who's giving you the right to live with me as I want you to live. There's a problem there.
It's just the truth.
It's a truth because, and granted...
No, I agree that you can't... I mean, they don't want to live the way we live. But I do also agree that the way they want to live is pretty shitty.
It's pretty shitty. But look at the...
So, like, I don't know what to do here. Because, like, on one hand, I agree. I think
Well, you
my
do.
way
You
of
voted
life,
the way you voted.
yeah,
You
but I'm
obviously know.
saying, like, you can't educate them. And it's not... But you also can't tolerate them. I guess that's what it comes down to. Which is the extreme...
Either or.
You can't tolerate them. You can't educate them. So what do?
You can't educate them. You can't tolerate them. See, I don't believe in those can'ts. I believe in you can try, but you also need to listen to them the way they want to live and the way they want to be. You need to listen to the way they want to live. And you can say, hey, by the way, we exist here. Israel exists here. The Knesset exists. The parliamentary democratic system exists here. We're here.
Yeah, but
You're welcome to live with us. They have three parties.
I'm not
Well,
saying you
they have
can't-
now two because two merged into one.
Yeah. I'm not saying you can't tolerate Arabs. I'm saying you can't. The culture that the Arab community is living here, a large portion of it. I mean, the Bedouin culture and just in general, there's serious problems with it. The way that the levels of crime and
Women in those societies.
and the way they oppress women. So you can't tolerate that culture. I'm not saying that we should, God forbid, expel Arabs or anything. I'm just saying that you can't tolerate the culture. You can't change it. You're not going to be able to educate them. So
I believe in education. I believe, look,
we've been trying.
Well, I support an organization called Yotzim L'Shinui, Out for Change, which is an organization that helps ultra-Orthodox Jewish people leave the ultra-Orthodox life and become secular. And just to support them, because many of them don't have the education that other Israeli citizens have within secular environments. But we support them. We can say, hey, this is the life. You're welcome to join me at my table. You're welcome to live this way. I'm not going to force you to live this way, but you are absolutely welcome to have a seat at my table, however you are, whoever you are, as long as you
That's
don't
what
try
we've
to
been
kill me.
doing for 70 years.
Not all of us. I mean, you listen to what Shas says, and you look at the religious Zionist party, and you look at what people are saying, and then the words of Smotrich and Ben Gvir, who actually said that Arabs. He's been quoted saying Arabs should die, or we should kill the Arabs. Maybe you can argue and say, oh, he's using the same language that the Arabs have used about us.
No, I agree.
Smotrich said
no.
we should kill the Arabs. Ben Gvir
No,
said we should
Smotrich, I don't think
kill
so.
the Arabs.
But Ben Gvir, like Mavet La'Arabim. I mean, he had
נכון, הוא אמר מוות לערבים.
No, but I'm sure he said it in the past, and he has a picture of what's his name?
Yeah, of
Baruch Goldstein.
Baruch
I think he has a
Goldstein.
problem saying Mavet La'Arabim.
Yeah.
If he has a picture of Baruch Goldstein.
And that is anti-Israel. To have a
I'm
photo
li-
of
I
Baruch
agree.
Goldstein
It's-
is an embarrassment.
For those who
some of
don't know,
Israel.
Baruch Goldstein is an Israeli terrorist
Yeah.
who
shot up
shot up dozens of
the cave of the, what is it called? The cave of the patriarchs.
people who prayed there,
Yeah.
Muslims, Arabs.
Yeah, Baruch Goldstein
like 30 years ago.
was a terrorist.
No, so it's despicable to say that stuff and say Mavet La'Aravim generally is just a ridiculous thing.
Right, but there are
But
consequences.
you can see, by the way, that speaking of change, Ben Gvir has actually, I think, pushed his supporters to there's videos of him actually telling them to stop yelling that, and then they start yelling Mavet LaMechablim, and now that's become their new mantra,
Right. Reframe it.
which is
Fine,
good.
reframe.
It's the right direction.
It's in the right direction.
The trend.
It's a good, like the trend is, but I'm saying that stuff I agree is, but it honestly bothers me less than the way that the left embraces terrorists and the way that
the left where?
Here in
They
Israel.
just yesterday they were praying for Balad, which is a terrorist party, to pass the threshold so that Lapid can form a government with them.
Right, but Balad didn't do very well.
They did fairly well.
What is the...
They got more than 3%. They were pretty close. And in a city like Lod, where we just had the big riots a year ago, all the Arabs in Lod voted Balad. Those are Israeli citizens. And we have a huge problem in that aspect.
After all of this, we didn't get to talk.
Well,
Yeah,
we
but
have
your
B'Tselem,
endeavors.
right, is another organization that's very unique in their views.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we have issues. And it's not only here in Israel. I mean, I live it every day in America. And as an Israeli American, I deal with it when I'm here, and I deal with it when I'm there. The intersectional nationalist identity that I have. So
there is this polarization that's happening, and it is. I think that's why we tried to get into this, is the ability to be able to sit down. The podcast, the ability to be able to sit down with people and talk to them, even from, and we've had people that like you that I think ideologically are probably pretty distant from us. Again, I don't know all of your beliefs, but
once again, you're making assumptions based on.
I'm making assumptions, but
based on the bio, which you read so very well.
Yeah.
It's really what an honor.
But also speaking to you, I can see that
could be an actor,
climate,
right?
Could be.
I've had a few.
He played a pole dancer.
We made
it
at
film school.
I bet
Yeah.
you did play a bowl dancer. Get it?
God.
For our listeners, right now I'm making it rain by throwing shekels. Well, technically agorot at him.
Shekels would hurt.
Shekels would hurt. Well, no,
Agorot
shekels.
too.
Wait, depends on if it's paper. Agorot would
Yeah.
hurt.
Yeah,
You
have to-
deserve more than agorot. I'll give you shekels. All right,
Okay.
back to you.
So
You met in
anyway, but
film
I'm
school.
saying this is why we got into it. We've had people from all sides of the aisle, and I think it's important that we're able to talk. But there is this, especially in these kind of times. But after all this, we didn't talk much about LGBTQ. But if people want to, follow
Tune
you
in
and
to your-
understand more about what you're doing and support the causes that you're supporting,
Absolutely.
how can they do that?
Well, it's funny when I go on social media or whenever I do these press tours or junkets, whatever, in the United States, and they say, "Oh, you can follow me at Yuval David everywhere, Yuval David." In the U.S. or outside of Israel, I'm like the first one who comes up when you search Yuval David. But here, I'm like number 8. I'm like, what is 8? Honestly, 8. I've counted. That's
Really?
why it's not a random number that I chose. I'm like, what? Who are these other Yuval Davidim? There's like some DJ, and there are a bunch of like 13, 14, 15, 16 teenage
A
girls.
seduction artist, coach.
Who are these Yuval Davids? But go to number 8. If you're in Israel, just go to the 8th one.
That's me.
That's me. You can absolutely find me all across social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on
YouTube
Twitter,
channel
on
you
YouTube.
mentioned.
Absolutely.
What do you talk about there?
YouTube.com/Yuval David. I got it first. Those other Yuval Davids can go to wherever. What do I talk about on my YouTube? It's really all an extension of the work that I do within entertainment and media. So on a daily basis, I truly, on a daily basis, work as an actor, host, director, filmmaker, and a commentator on news programs. I speak about social justice and civil rights causes on news shows across the U.S. and in Israel, and internationally on occasion. It's quite easy to find me. And if you want to follow the causes that I support, and if you want to learn more about the causes that I don't support, you can absolutely see that on social media. One of the things that I find tragic on social media is we're also in an era where it's more comfortable for people to share their criticisms and their negativity on social media than it is to share the positivity. So in order to change society, if you do, the listeners who are listening to us again on the beauty of the Shure microphones here, recorded from the beauty of Tel Aviv in Israel, looking at the distance of beautiful buildings and a skyline in the background, whenever you see a negative comment and you read it, take 20 seconds. Write a positive comment, whether it's on that same post or just go onto the accounts of your friends and your family and those who you like, not the celebrities who you follow, but write something positive.
Spread the love.
Spread the love instead of spreading the hate. What is the answer to hate speech? It's more speech. I said it before. That is what we need to do. That is the change that we will see. If you feel the negativity, share the positivity. If you don't respond with positivity, all you're doing is embracing and enhancing and supporting and tolerating the negativity. That is our job, to create the positivity that we want to see. And people like you who are parents, I have children that I maybe don't know of, I don't know. We need to make this world what we want it to be. So why am I an LGBTQ activist? Well, number one, it's because I'm part of the community. I'm part of the movement. I queerly embrace the flow of my sexuality. Why am I a Jewish activist? Well, I was born this way, just like I was born LGBTQ. I was born gay. Gay or bi or queer, it depends on the day. But anyway, we need to embrace our identities and what we do to support our people. And when we support our people, we support the periphery. We support the people who are the plus, the people who love Jews, or the people who are the plus, who support and are allies of LGBTQ, or the plus, the people who support democracy. Support the people, even if they don't believe and live the way you live, but help them. If we can help our neighbors, that is what being a true Jew is. That is what being a true Zionist is. Liot or lagoim v'kechol lagoim, to be like other nations and to be a light other nations. To be a true Jew who follows tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice, you must pursue. To be Jewish is not about love like Christianity is, and like many other and like Buddhism is. They talk about love all the time. We don't talk about love. We talk about justice. We talk about education. We talk about opinions. I must let you have your opinion. I also have the complete right to continuously try to change your mind, which is why a lot of us Jews here are completely bonkers, because we'll keep trying to change your mind. But I'll let you have your opinion. That is what we need to do. And that is the problem with society. We're not letting people have their opinions. We need to support people talking, support the democratic process. And if you don't like what happened with these elections, run for office.
Hell yeah.
Run for power. Try to...
We'll have another
Sure.
eventually.
Absolutely. Look, Israel's only
Probably
had
6 months from now.
Right. Israel's only had 5 elections since 2019. I mean, it's only 5. Gosh, have another one. So you said earlier we didn't talk enough about LGBTQIA+. We talked a lot about it because LGBTQ+ is a movement. It's one of the most successful civil rights and social justice movements of our era. After the feminist movement. Feminist movement changed the world. Changed the world.
And Martin Luther King, maybe.
Sure, Martin Luther King, yeah. They still have a lot of problems in the United States and internationally. But I think and they have a long ways to go.
And the Zionist movement.
Sure. I would say number 1 most successful movement was the feminist movement. Number 2, the LGBTQ movement, which still has a long way to go. I would say number 3, at least in the United States and in the UK, would be the movement to support people of color, right? So if you want to call it the civil rights movement for the advancement of black people or people of color, it has a different name in different countries. I would say that's the third because there are a lot of issues there.
And don't litter.
And what?
Don't litter.
Oh gosh, we have a long ways to go with that. I mean, I've traveled around the world, and there are certain places that I think are just cesspools of junkyards.
Yeah. Yuval David, thank you so much. It was an honor and pleasure.
It's an honor to hear my name, Yuval David. I'm so used to Yuval David.
Yuval David.
Yuval David.
No, rarely is it Yuval. Rarely is it Yuval.
Yuval David.
Yuval David.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. The pleasure's mine.
Bye, guys. See you in the next one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So quick?
Yeah, I'm just cutting it
Usually
short.
we have like
that was
Spotify.
follow us on
That was
YouTube
like a bad date. That's like when you just show up for like fun and they're like, "Yep, and we're done. Bye. Here's the door.
Cancel
Yeah.
Walk
us.
yourself
I
out.
won't
Don't
sleep
shower."
alone tonight.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was horrible.
Bye, guys.
How did you feel after that?
I felt cold and abused.
Abused.
Did
you-
violated?
But you liked it. You're smiling.
A little bit.
You liked it.
A little
It's
bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It works for you.
Bye, guys.